शन्नो मित्रः शं वरुणः शन्नो भवत्वर्यमा शन्न इन्द्रो बृहस्पतिः शन्नो विष्णुरुरुक्रमः नमो ब्रह्मणे नमस्ते वायो त्वमेव प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्मासि त्वमेव प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्म वदिष्यामि ऋतं वदिष्यामि सत्यं वदिष्यामि तन्मामवतु तद्वक्तारमवतु अवतु माम् अवतु वक्तारम् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः Yesterday we saw the reasons that are given. And what are the reasons? There are three reasons along with quotation that Bhashyakara gives for the Atma itself being Brahman. These are, and two of them we have seen in detail, and then one more we have to see today. And just to summarize, what was the first, let us look at the Bhashya at that and then revise those things. Where did it go? Just one second. Yeah. Karanatvam praptam. Little further. I somehow lost the place here. Yeah. So he says, तस्माद् वा एतस्मात् आत्मनः इति ब्रह्मणि एव आत्मशब्दप्रयोगात् वेदितुः आत्मा एव ब्रह्म. The Atma of this knower, the truth of this knower is indeed Brahman. There is no other Brahman other than the content of the knower, he says. And we saw that one in detail. He gives that first reason why this Brahman that we are talking about is only Atma. And this is not a conclusion that's based on some kind of a thinking, what's its name? Some kind of a whimsical thinking or a wishful thinking. But this is based exactly on the Shruti. Since it is based on the Shruti, then he is quoting the Shruti, some unusual quotations, like the very next mantra he quotes because he finds what he needs right there. Because from Brahman, the Shruti just changes over to Atma without even an explanation inside. So we saw that at length. Why Atma is Brahman? Because from this Atma alone, all the five elements, everything has come. This is what we saw. Okay. And then Atma, so that's why he concludes Atma Shabda Prayogat Vedituho Atma Eva Brahma. Then the next reason he gives is talking about how the knower of the Atma, the one who knows the Atma, is crossing various mistakes centered on the I. So the mistake centered on the I, thinking oneself to be the body, thinking oneself to be the mind, thinking oneself to be the prana, thinking oneself to be the karta, the doer, thinking oneself to be the done in, bhokta. So so the one is able to cross over all that. Why? Because that Atma alone is Brahman. That's why. If the Atma were not Brahman, then one would be stuck in all these various mistakes. But one is not stuck in the mistakes. That's why the Atma has to be Brahman. That's why we say Brahmavit apnoti param. The knower of Brahman is nothing other than Brahman. According to the other Upanishad, which one is that? Mundaka Upanishad. Brahmavit Brahmaiva bhavati. The knower of Brahman is nothing other than Brahman, is Brahman alone. And so therefore, we have all these things, and this is why the Vedituhu Atma Brahma Eva, he concludes. And then one more Shruti is there. This is what is called Pravesha Shruti. Tat Srishtva Tadeva Anupravishat iti cha tasyaiva Jiva Rupena Sharira Pravesham Darshayati. Very, very beautiful here. And this is what we are in the middle of looking at. This is exactly, we are in the middle of looking into that, because tat srishtva tadeva anupravishat. What does this mean? Having created the whole jagat of names and forms, this Brahman that we are talking about is non-separate from those names and forms. Okay, and that is exactly what, because this is what is called the entry Shruti. Brahman has, as it were, entered every name, every form. And this entry Shruti is what we are talking about. And this is exactly the quotation here. The so-called entry of Brahman into various, as it were, into various upadhis, and more about the upadhis we'll be hearing shortly. So into various upadhis is what is here at stake. And so the Brahman into these various upadhis means that because of its closeness, which takes on the attributes of something it is close to, that is what is called upadhi. So like the body is an upadhi for the Atma. So the Atma takes on the upadhi of the body, and without really becoming the body. Atma takes on the upadhi of the mind without really becoming what is upahita. Upahita means placed closely. So it is, even though the mind is placed closely, there is no difference between Atma and body. Still there is a big difference, because body is Atma, Atma is not the body. This is what we have been talking about all along. And so this is what it is. So upadhi vashat, because of the upadhi, we have, we have this pravesha shruti, that this Brahman enters, so to speak, various upadhis without becoming any one of them. That is what it is. And neither does Brahman, and we'll see this when we see this portion later in the mantra 2.6 or something. Neither does Brahman lose weight in the process of populating the whole Jagat. Oh, because, and it's just like you take a spoonful of marmalade and spread it on your toast. And that marmalade becomes thin, 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 and then there is no more left. And now the whole bread is covered with the marmalade. So just like that, whole Jagat is covered by Brahman. There is no more Brahman left. That does not happen. Why? That's why we spend so much time talking about Ananta. Anantyam. This is what is limitless, because it doesn't, it does not really undergo any change, lose any weight, or undergo any kind of transformation, or even become the Jagat. It does not become the Jagat. It as though allows its satta, its presence, its existence, and its spurti What is Purti? It's sentience. It allows its satta and spurti to be there and bless everything with its presence and sentience without becoming anything. For Brahman to become anything is totally unbecoming. And so, therefore, Bhashyakara says that this Pravesha Shruti, what is this called? So, this Pravesha Shruti, this particular Vakya, having created everything, Tad Brahma Tadeva Anupravishat. Everywhere it is there. In the Taittiriya Upanishad also, tad aikshat, tad abhavat, same thing. And it's all there in many Upanishads. And then, just unlike the Srishti, unlike the local Srishti of things that we have, of things that are there. The local Srishti, what happens? There is a difference between the Nimitta Karana and the Upadana Karana. Nimitta Karana means the one who visualizes the intelligence behind the creation of something, like even a pot. And then Upadana Karana is the raw material. Usually in the local Srishti, what do we see? The two are vastly different. They are separated. So, in other words, if you go and buy a ghata, you don't buy also the maker of the ghata. The potter doesn't come home with you, along with the family and the dog and the cat. They all don't come home with you because there is a remoteness, and especially in capitalist society, even more so, there is a remoteness between the maker and the material. The material cause is different from the maker. You may buy the material, and then if they are, what is that called? Nowadays there are all these fair price uh, shops and fair trade practices. And so, if you buy from somewhere, they may give you the name of the collective that made it and how it was made. But still, the collective of women who made a particular piece of fabric, they don't go home with you. This is something which is very, very important to understand. And so, therefore, this is so therefore here in the Srishti of the Jagat, there is only Brahman involved. So we say it is abhinna nimitta upadana karanatvam. So the material cause and the maker are one and the same Brahman. And so then Brahman changes into material and then into maker? No. Because all changes that we're talking about is as though. So then we are not concerned so much right now until we encounter with and deal with this mantra. We are not so much concerned about what happens when Brahman enters various upadhis. We are only going to be concentrating on how Brahman enters this upadhi called the head. Whose head? The Jiva's head, of course. And so, what happens when Brahman enters this upadhi? And that is what is most important here. And this is exactly he says that so Brahman has entered everything. How do we know? Because the Brahman has also entered the buddhi. How did Brahman enter the buddhi? Enter again within heavy quotes. How did Brahman enter my intellect? Brahman entered the intellect just like when the potter was making pot, space entered the pot. So space was all around. And just a lump of clay was thrown on the wheel and the wheel was set in motion. Sometimes there is a pedal to operate the wheel, sometimes there is electric, so the wheel was set into motion. And once the wheel was set into motion, the hands of the potter, carved this, made this into a nice akara, made it into a round shape first, and then hollowed out a nice opening. Sometimes they do it with little tools, hollowed out a nice round opening, took out the extra clay, and then put it aside for some other project. And now we have a nice thing, sitting and spinning on the wheel with a nice hole in it, a pot wannabe. So as soon as that extra clay was scooped up, what happened? Space took its place, right? So you can't even say after the pot was fashioned, space thought, Bahusyam, I think I should enter every space. That's why I'm called space. So after it was created, space thought and space entered. This is ridiculous. Even though the Shruti says that there is no time gap because time itself is yet to come on the wheel of creation. So time and space are yet to be made. So just like if we take this example of space entering the pot, how quietly and how without any kind of a fanfare space naturally enters. Similarly, in the same way, in the spaced out head that I have, Brahman has, in the hollowed out space that I have called the brain, Brahman has already entered. Thank God. Thank God it is there. Fantastic. And so, therefore, so the Upalabdhisthanam, the place where Brahman is cognized, is in the Buddhi alone. And the um, that is why it says, having created everything, it has entered everything. Entered everything means the material also is it, and the maker also is it. What is this it? This Brahman alone. So then, the Upadana Karana, the material cause, is also Brahman. Nimitta Karana, the efficient cause, is also Brahman. And that Brahman has not undergone any change. Before all these names and forms, including this head of mine, came into being, what was Brahman? Satyam Jnanam Anantam. Now that everything has come into being, what is Brahman? Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. Not undergone any change, not lost weight, not lost its power, not got exhausted, nothing of the kind at all. Okay. And so therefore, it obtains in the buddhi. How does it obtain in the buddhi? Exactly as Satyam Jnanam Anantam. Satya Jnanananda Rupena Upalabhyate Buddhau. It is available in the buddhi. It is recognized in the buddhi as and understood as Satyam Jnanam Anantam. This is what is the Pravesha Shruti. This is what it says. So now this is this is a very nice this is a very nice quotation here for our purposes. Primarily because it is easy to conceptualize. It's very, very easy to conceptualize. Why? Because we are used to the concept of Griha Pravesha. Griha Pravesha means new house entry. And so you build the house, and then you take the photo of the Guru, photo of your favorite form of Bhagavan, and then make them enter first. And then you enter with a lot of fanfare, etc. And even in the West, this house warming and all is very, and inaugurating new buildings, ribbon cutting, all these things people are familiar with. And so this is a very nice imagery. Having created the house, and then the person ceremonially enters the griha, the griham, the house. And so this is, so the family that constructed the house they enter the house. The family enters the house. So then, here in the house example, the entry of the person is different, and the house, of course, is different from the family that created the house. But here the idea is similar and different. Having created all the nama rupas, which are absolutely different from Brahman. Brahman is infinite, nama rupas are finite. Brahman is Satyam Jnanam Anantam, and the and self-standing, and it is the cause. All the objects that are of in the creation are because, and Brahman is the Brahman is the cause, everything else is the effect, so to speak. So even though there are like the house example, there are many difference from the maker and whatever has been made, still it is not, what is that called? It is still a different proposition, because the buddhi is non-separate from Brahman, because Brahman is occupying the buddhi. The Brahman is occupying the buddhi, slightly different than the house Swami. The house Swami means the owner of the house is occupying the house, but then, if something better comes along, we'll sell the house and go somewhere and all this. So, this is just a limited example. Whereas Brahman is in the buddhi, ever present, just like how we study about it. Just like how the Shruti says Satyam Jnanam Anantam, that same Satyam Jnanam Anantam we can understand in our buddhi, because Brahman is occupying that buddhi in the form of Satyam Jnanam Anantam. So therefore, this is the whole thing. And so, having created the Jagat, Brahman did not lose money, Brahman did not lose time, Brahman did not lose hair and become bald or started to gray. We say we say that, if somebody, if you perform a marriage, or if you, what is the other thing? If you build a house, you age. you know, you age. These two are the very difficult things. But Brahman has undergone no change in not just building the house, but in building the entire Jagat, and not only building, but occupying the whole Jagat. And so, therefore, then tat srishtva tadeva anupravishat. What does this mean? Jiva rupena sharira pravesham darshayati. In the form of the jiva, Brahman has, as it were, entered the body mind sense complex. The indweller of the body mind sense complex is Satyam Jnanam Anantam, Brahma. The same Brahman that we have been studying about has indeed entered this very body mind sense complex. And so this is exactly what is the point of this Pravesha Shruti, this portion of the Upanishad, which we are going to encounter later. And the entry into the body mind sense complex in the form of the jiva alone, jiva rupena sharira pravesham darshayati. This is huge. Therefore, vedituhu swarupam brahma. The nature of the knower, the content of the knower is what? Brahman alone, he concludes. The nature of the knower is Brahman, and the content of the knower is Brahman. And what is this Brahman? Satyam Jnanam Anantam. The same thing that is in the head is Satyam Jnanam Anantam. The same Brahman that we tried to talk about just now, Satyam Jnanam Anantam. Then Adi Shankara thought it's time for a coffee break. No such luck. Because there is a Purva Pakshi lurking. And the Purva Pakshi wants to ask a question. And here comes a caveat. This is not from the Purva Pakshi's side or from the Shruti. This is my own caveat, because this is the time to pay attention. This is not the time to get jaded and faded, which are the definitions of the jiva. Okay, this is not the time to get jaded and faded, because when we enter this, you are duly warned. When we enter into the objection, you will feel like switching off. You may feel like switching off. Why? Because you will feel like, I have been here and done that already. ये तो हमने कर लिया है. This is done. We have addressed this. We don't have, what is this? We're going to do the same thing all over again. This is not necessary. This is already done, finished, gone. I mean, how long are you going to beat this horse? This is already done. So there is no need to do this, and we can actually move on. And so the temptation is to mm, become jaded, switch off. What else? Like not pay attention, feel like I know this already. So many things. But my suggestion is, please do not do that. Why should I not do that? You should not do that because in so doing, you will be missing a very beautiful elucidation of the Tvampada by Bhashyakara. What is this new thing, Tvampada? Well, it's not that new. We saw it yesterday. So this is the 5 plus 4 is equal to 9, that side of the argument. And so this is Tvampada. Tvampada means the word you. In fact, if the Tvampada is not understood, then you know what happens? The whole Shastra is not understood. And even though you may say, I want to know Tat Pada. See, where does this word Tvam Pada and Tat Pada come from? The, what's its name? From the Mahavakya Tat Tvam Asi. So Tat Pada refers to Brahman, the whole. Tvam Pada refers to how this Brahman, as it were, obtains in this body mind sense complex. What is this body mind sense complex, and how to cognitively take away the things that do not matter and are always changing in order to arrive at the fact that I am the truth of this I is Satyam Jnanam Anantam. This is huge. This is called Tvampada. Tvampada Vichara. In fact, the Sureshwaracharya, one of the disciples of Adi Shankara, his work called, his magnum opus called, what is it called? Naishkarmya Siddhi, is all Tvampada Vichara. It's just Tvampada Vichara. It's amazing. And then to those critics that might put put forward the critique that, what, you're not dealing with God, you're not dealing with Ishvara, you're only dealing with you, and what you count. To that, right in the beginning, he says, look, I am dealing with this because this is not understood. People are in a rush to understand Brahman from the standpoint of Bhagavan, Ishvara, the total, and then they don't know how to inhabit this knowledge because they haven't done enough introspection, enough study into, what should I say, unraveling the word Tvam, I. So this I side is also very important. So this is exactly why you should neither take the objection nor the answer to the objection for granted, because you will miss a beautiful unfoldment of the Tvampada given by Bhashyakara, and how Brahman shines in the mind. All these things are going to be very, very, very nice. So let us look at the objection. Okay. Iti shunyarthata. Okay, we saw that. Here I have marked it. Tat praveshacha tat srishtva. Iti cha, he concludes. Iti cha tasyaiva jiva rupena sharira pravesham darshayati. Ato vedituhu swarupam brahma. Is it time for a coffee break yet? No. The Purva Pakshi is active. Evam tarhi
एवं तर्हि
atmatvat
आत्मत्वात्
ज्ञानकर्तृत्वम्
ज्ञानकर्तृत्वम्
आत्मा ज्ञाता इति हि प्रसिद्धम्
आत्मा ज्ञाता इति हि प्रसिद्धम्
सोकामयत्
सोकामयत्
इति च
इति च
कामिनः
कामिनः
ज्ञानकर्तृत्वप्रसिद्धिः.
ज्ञानकर्तृत्वप्रसिद्धिः
अतः
अतः
ज्ञानकर्तृत्वात्
ज्ञानकर्तृत्वात्
ज्ञप्तिः ब्रह्म
ज्ञप्तिः ब्रह्म
इति अयुक्तम्
इति अयुक्तम्
अनित्यत्वप्रसङ्गाच्च
अनित्यत्वप्रसङ्गाच्च
यदि नाम ज्ञप्तिः
यदि ज्ञानज्ञप्तिः
ज्ञानमिति
ज्ञानमिति
भावरूपता ब्रह्मणः
भावरूपता ब्रह्मणः
तथापि
तथापि
अनित्यत्वं प्रसज्येत
अनित्यत्वं प्रसज्येत
पारतन्त्र्यं च
पारतन्त्र्यं च
धात्वर्थानां
धात्वर्थानां
कारक अपेक्षत्वात्
कारक अपेक्षत्वात्
ज्ञानञ्च
ज्ञानं च
धातु अर्थः
धातु अर्थः
अतः
अतः
अस्य अनित्यत्वम्
अस्य अनित्यत्वं
परतन्त्रता च
परतन्त्रता च
yeah. So you can from this, if you know a little bit of Sanskrit, you know what we are going to be discussing. Let me summarize this. Let me summarize the objection, and then we'll take it, point by point, because it's as objections go like the previous one, it is also getting extremely involved and a very specific objection. See, the objector says, this is just a summation of it. Then we'll see the specific nuances of this objection and where it's going to take our understanding. So the objection says, Evam tarhi, if this is the case, look, I have been listening to you. If this is the case, then what? Atmatvat, Atmatvat, if Brahman is Atma alone, then Brahman becomes Jnana Kartri. Jnata. Brahman becomes knower. Why? Atma Jnata iti hi prasiddham. Atma means I know I am the knower. Why? Because I've been sitting and listening to you. The Purva Pakshi is talking, okay? I've been sitting and listening to you. And so I know that you are talking, I am listening, and then when I am listening, I am the karta of listening. I'm the agent of listening. So the Brahman becomes agent. Atma jnata iti hi prasiddham. So now Jnata, now Pramata, now Karta, now Bhokta, now all these things, the I keeps doing. Loke, Prasiddha means famous. Famous where? Loke, in this world. Everybody says, I've done this. I'm going. Where are you going? I'm going here. What are you doing? Oh, I have so much to do today. I have to go do this, and then I have a meeting, and then I have a conference, and then I have to catch the plane. So many things. And then so one is just buzzing around all the time. And then if you say you are Brahman, then Brahman also becomes what? Jnanakarta. You yourself said the both are synonymous and Atma is Brahman, etc. And so this is what happens. And here is where the temptation to switch off comes. Why? Because we have already dealt with it from the Brahman side. What have we dealt with? That Brahman is not the knower, not the known, not the means of knowledge. That's why I said. So then what is the reason why this objection is coming up again? This is something which is very important. So this objection, and this is in gist is this is the objection in short. This is the gist of the objection, and then it has some implications because of this objection. We'll be looking into that as well. So let me just list the implications. So if it is jnana kartri, if I am the knower and if I am also Brahman, then what? Anityatva prasangat cha. then we have a prasanga, a situation, a circumstance where Brahman becomes anitya. Anitya means what? Temporary, non-permanent. And so all this you have done, then what is the use of knowing Brahman? Brahmavit apnoti anityam. We have to change the Shruti. We shouldn't say Brahmavit apnoti param. What do we have to say? Brahmavit apnoti anityam. And so, but then, if Brahmavit apnoti anityam, if the knower of Brahman gains anitya, everything finite, then why should I know Brahman? Because already all the knowledge that I have right now is already giving me finitude in ample measure. In infinite measure, I'm surrounded by finitude. Why should I know one more thing that is finite? So Brahman becomes finite. That's the first logical corollary of this objection, of this thinking that, of this objection. What is the objection? That Brahman is the, becomes now the author of knowledge and author of action. And then the second thing is that it is paratantriyam. It is dependent upon, paratantriyam is opposite of Swatantra. Swatantra, totally self-standing, by itself, in its own glory. Paratantriya means paratantra. Paratantrasya bhavaha, paratantriyam. Very nice to say, it's a tongue twister. So this paratantriyam means Brahman is dependent upon so many things. If it's the knower, then it has to know something. And what is that thing that it knows? All these things come into being. All these situations come into being. And so therefore this is the, in short, this is the objection. Now, why raise this objection when we have just been through a marathon of refuting in the elucidation of the Jnana Shabda not too long ago, refuting Jnana Kartritvam, refuting any kind of agency or authorship of knowledge or any kind of action for Brahman? Why bring this again? For two reasons. One is, as I said, the objection is to bring in the Tvam Pada Vichara, is to bring in the analysis of the Tvam Pada. That is the very, very important, because you can't have Tattvamasi and only study what Tat means and then not apply it to Tvam. Tvam means I. So now Tvam means you, but then when I say Tvam, you should say I. So then, so Tvam means, the Tvam refers to the individual and Tat refers to the whole. And so if you look at Brahman from the standpoint of the whole, even as we did in the Chandogya Upanishad, any other Upanishad, so they, from this, Brahman, everything has come, all the oceans, all the land, all the trees, all the mountains. It's not enough to know that, because if the Tvam has not been thoroughly studied and come to the right conclusion, if the wrong notions surrounding this Tvam, this I, are, have not been eliminated, namely, I am small, I am insignificant, I am unloved, I don't matter, I have to accomplish more and more things to be seen more and more, and I have to become Brahman. I have to really become Brahman, I have to go to Brahman, I have to reach Brahman, all these things. So if this is not properly understood, then the knowledge of Brahman is useless. The knowledge of Brahman is useful only when it is known as you. The knowledge of Brahman as me alone is useful, because the sorrow and the pain are centered around me. And to eliminate that, this knowledge is there. And so the knowledge of Brahman is for my benefit, for my redemption, for my moksha, freedom from samsara. So therefore Brahman becomes important, the knowledge of Brahman becomes important, not otherwise. Otherwise, who cares what this Brahman is? And because if it is not me, then it's just like saying, there is a rich person, a very, very rich person who has a mansion on top of the hill. Okay, big deal. What should I do with this information? Are they going to give me money? No. Are they going to give me that house? No. Can I go and stay there whenever I want and have a holiday? No. Then why should I care? That's exactly how it is. And so this is the first reason why this objection is being raised, so that this brahmatmata, the meaning brahma, this atma as brahman is completely known, and one is comfortable with this knowledge even before the Upanishad has started. Even as the Upanishad is unfolding the Mahavakya, one is already comfortable with this identity of oneself as Brahman, and one is understanding it from the standpoint of Atma, which is how it should be understood. Otherwise, it'll be just like some rich person with Ananta Kalyana Guna Sampanna, someone who has so many qualities, very rich, very well known, very accomplished, and the children also, the spouse also very rich, very accomplished, very well known. Who cares? Maybe for some there is some kind of a vicarious joy one gets out of following celebrities on Twitter and social media, and looking at TV shows, what are they called, lifestyle of rich and famous. For a little while you can say, oh, that's how they live, and then after that it's boring. It's very, very boring. What do you care? Oh, they have, and they have a swimming pool. Big deal. It's not a big deal. And so, like this, they have a house in the ocean, they have a house in the mountain, they have a house somewhere suspended. All these things are there. And it's not, for after a while, the glamour wears off because one is again depressed, even more depressed, because now after seeing how they live you feel even worse about your own lot. Like, why can't I have nice things? Why can't I go to nice places? This is exactly what happens. One is delving deeper into samsara as a result of this kind of an exposure. So therefore, this Brahman, let it be Satyam, let it be Anantam squared, let it be Jnanam cubed, doesn't matter if it doesn't really affect me, if it doesn't change my lot of identifying with this miserable body and this never mind and these senseless senses, if it doesn't bring about a permanent and a complete and a revolutionary transformation in me, why should I know this? This is exactly Bhashyakara's point. This is why he raises this objection, so that it gives us an opportunity to see that even though the I that is obtaining in this body, mind, sense complex as the Ahankara, may be the Jnana Kartru, may be the knower, may be the doer. Still, it is I am Brahman when I say there is something else that is going on. One is Mithya, one is Satyam. To elucidate that, this is the first reason this objection is being brought up. There is one more reason I said. The second reason, very interesting. This is to show us, to showcase for us the various varieties of Purva Pakshis. Just like you collect certain things that belong to a certain, what is that? Some collection, dolls or whatever, and then you put it in a showcase for people to see. Oh, this one I got on my way here, and that one is a limited edition, and the third one came like this. But they all have something in common. They all belong to the same company or the same kind of dolls or whatever it is. They're all sitting in the showcase. So here Adi Shankara is taking the time to showcase a certain kind of a Purva Pakshi. A Purva Pakshi with a deep agenda. An agenda. Some Purva Pakshis are very gullible. So this is not your Ekadeshi or like a gullible one-pointed Purva Pakshi who just says, this is, who just says it like whatever is thought of is expressed. No. This objector is not one particular objector. Actually, it is this objection is coming from a group of objectors, no matter where they are and what their particular affiliation to various darshanas or various viewpoints of philosophy are. It don't matter at all. It does not matter a single bit, because they all belong, they all are of the same feather, and they are happily flocking together. So this is a group effort. This is the group Purva Pakshi effort. Why? You'll see very quickly. Because the way in which the question is asked, when we read this, when we read the objection, there is a let me just look at the objection again to see if I can point it for you. So, eva atmatva jnana kartritvam atma jnata iti prasiddham. अतः ज्ञानकर्तृत्वात् ज्ञप्तिः ब्रह्म इति अयुक्तम् अनित्यत्व प्रसंगाच्च. So here they are not, the first two three sentences, they are not objecting. This brand of Purva Pakshi is not really objecting to the definition of Brahman. They are objecting to the fact that Atma is Brahman. That I am Brahman, that is where their problem lies. Let Brahman be wonderful. Why? Because Brahman is not Atma. This is where they want, this is why this objection. Brahman cannot be you. Come on. What is Brahman? You just said it is Bhava Sadhana, it is the everything. And how can you, just having this long face, how can you be Brahman? Having this long face, complaining about all the things all the time, at every single, every single step, and then living with a miserable body, living with an even more miserable mind, and senses that drive you senseless. How can you claim to be Brahman? And if Brahman is the cause of the universe, then the word the Atma must have been just an accidental slip of the Shruti's tongue. Tasmadva etasmat Brahmanah, it should have said, she should have said, but then it was just Atmanah. It's just Aupachariki. It is just a, it's a statement. It is this apachariki shashti. This shashti is there. Sorry, not panchami. Atmanah, from this atma. तस्माद् वा तस्माद् वै तस्माद् ब्रह्मणः वै एतस्मात् आत्मनः आकाशः सम्भूतः. So, no, that's just a little, it's Aupachariki Panchami. It is a figure of speech, this fifth case, that out of this everything has come. No, it's out of you. What can you create? Other than confusion. You can't create anything. All you can create is a mess. And so, don't think of yourself as Brahman. We don't mind you elucidating the topic of Brahman. We will sit and listen reverentially or otherwise. We will sing the praises of Brahman. We will sing bhajans. Sarvam Brahmamayam, we will sing. No problem. We can sing all this. But then don't tell me that I am Brahman, because myself and Brahman, there is a huge, big gap. And you know what? This is Gudha Bhisandhi. Gudha Bhisandhi means this is the hidden agenda. Not only is there a big gap between myself and Brahman, you know what? I like it that way. I like it. You don't want to be too close to Brahman. It's uncomfortable. Because if you are Brahman, then who will you pray to? Think about it. When you want something, you won't want anything. Oh, come on. Nonsense. Of course you'll want something. And so who will you pray to? Who will you go to? Because after Brahman, it's not that the whole world and all the Nama Rupas are going to disappear. They are, it's not that they're going to disappear. The Jnani also has to wake up. The Jnani also wants a cup of coffee in the morning. And the Jnani also goes and you may go to work, but the Jnani goes to class and then teaches or writes or whatever. But still, Vyavahara is there. And so therefore what? Leave Brahman out of this discussion. Means what? This is many kinds of Dvaitins. This is the objection from the dualists, I should say, a list of dualists. And and who are they? Very, very, what's the word for it? Very entertaining fellows. Like the first one is Purva Mimamsaka. This who is this Purva Mimamsaka? The person who is of the opinion that only the first portion of the Veda is real. The first portion of the Veda that teaches you karma, how to sit, how to stand, how to walk, how to talk, how to get what you want, how to pray. And the whole life is about establishing a relationship with Bhagavan, with Ishvara. And this is, if you can understand this, this is not just for the Hindu tradition. There are dualist traditions everywhere. In fact, if it is not Advaita, it is dualism. All the theologies are dualist. I don't consider Vedanta a theology, even though in academia they say that Vedanta is also a theology. I don't consider it a theology. It is the knowledge of yourself that is going to free you. That's what it is. So, it is, if you, I mean, I suppose you can call it a theology, but you have to understand what its meaning. But so here, in all the dualistic philosophies, there is no problem in describing God as good, describing God as omniscient, describing God as all pervasive even, and describing Ishvara, God, as something that is unique. But then the jiva, the individual, is not that, at least while alive. The best you can hope for is to is to be good, is to have some kind of a moral plane of ethics and way of being. And then, as a result of that, you can hope to give up this body. The body stays here, and then you have an eternal body, and then you eternally go live with God. I tell you, even if you live with God, even if you are Bhagavan's roommate, with this kind of a mind that you have right now, it will not work. You'll be finding fault with yourself all the time and finding fault with Bhagavan also. And so it will not work. So something has to be transformative. And if you're interested in non-dualism, this kind of a dualistic philosophy creeps in different ways. And Adi Shankara wants to introduce us to what all is out there, how people think, how people, where is how people have already made up their mind what Brahman is not like or what Brahman is not like. Brahman here means as the cause of the universe, as Ishvara. So they don't get the difference between Tatastha Lakshana and Swarupa Lakshana. They don't at all get the difference. And so they've already made up their mind. And so here, one such person who embodies these kinds of thoughts, our local homegrown, is called Purva Mimamsaka. The person who is a karmatha. Karmatha means the one who is always into actions, and actions are very important because then you can reap the good benefits, good merits out of the results of action, and results of actions that are done in tandem with dharma give you comfortable situations. This is how to become comfortable. And then, so how do you get some extra things in life? You be good and you do the things you're supposed to do, and you don't do the things you're not supposed to do, and then you get rewards from Bhagavan. And that Bhagavan, of course, is separate from you. And then what? And so, because we need somebody to supplicate to, somebody to surrender to. It's the same thing like saying we need a savior. And, so that is what it is. So we need somebody to supplicate to, somebody to surrender to. And then what? And then only I will get some goodies and my life will be a lot better because I have taken into account all the known variables and the unknown curved ball hidden variable called Ishvara God. This is the Karmatha. This is the Purva Mimamsaka. Now, not to be outdone, there are another couple of people who also do this, and Sankhya. Sankhya, again, there is a kind of a dualism there. Purusha and Prakriti. Purusha is the Lord. Prakriti is the raw material. Prakriti creates. Purusha is Asanga, sits somewhere. And then again, what is the connection between Purusha and Prakriti? There is a dualism there. Then who else? Then if you take the other fellows, what are they called? Vaisheshikas. Vaisheshikas and Naiyayikas. Again, all of them come from the some brand of dualism or another. I am separate. You are separate. The Jagat, the universe is separate. And that we call God is also separate. Everything is separate. So Purva Mimamsaka, Vaisheshika, Naiyayika, and even within people who study the Upanishads, even there we have dualists, Dvaitins. They call themselves dualists. And then we have Vishishtadvaitins. Vishishta Advaita means qualified dualism. Qualified non-dualism. Qualified non-dualism is dualism, okay? Because that which cannot be qualified is non-dualism. That which cannot be talked about is non-dualism. If you're qualifying dualism, non-dualism, then it becomes dualism. Plain and simple. So that is the second reason why this particular objection is being put forward, because Adi Shankara wants to showcase these kinds of dualistic objections. As soon as the Mahavakya is about to be rendered, these kinds of objections from dualists come is not a surprise at all. And so therefore this objection has to be looked at carefully for these two particular reasons. So what is the objection here? The objection is that you said that the word jnanam is not jnanakarta, it is not any other factor of action, it's not the object of knowledge, it's not the agent of knowledge, it's not the instrument of knowledge, it is pure jnapti. Jnapti means consciousness alone. And then you had said, but then what? Now we find that atmatvat jnana kartritvam. If Brahman is Atma, what do you see people? Atma means I, you, whoever there is. All these people, what do you see them doing? Do you see them sitting in one place quietly? Absolutely not. You see people like headless chickens going about the world. Even though one is stressed, one cannot sit still even for a moment. Like the Bhagavad Gita says, Nahi kaschit jatu tishtati akarmakrit kshanamapi. Without doing anything, one cannot sit in one place even for a moment. And so therefore, I was listening to you. You said Brahman is consciousness. I said okay. But now you're saying Brahman is Atma. Atma means I. I know myself. I'm listening to you. I'm a Jnanakarta. And so therefore what? Brahman gets Jnanakartritvam. Why? Atmatvat. So the same person we thought we had put to rest way back a few arguments ago is now up. So we need to have the force of Harishchandra. What is to refute him? What is the force of Harishchandra? Harishchandra was a great king, but then due to some devas trying to test him, he was reduced to penury because he was a great king and very honest, and Bhagavan Vishnu wanted to test him. If this honesty was opportunistic, it's easy to be honest when everything is going your way and when there is enough money in the bank and when the circumstances are comfortable. But then he wanted to test him, and so he took away the kingdom, took away everything, took away his only son. And so he was reduced to just nothing, and he had to find a job as a funeral groundskeeper. So this is called Harishchandra's job. What is Harishchandra's job? The relatives will cry over the body and put it on the flames and go away. They can't wait, and they won't wait till the whole body is consumed by the flames, which can take hours. And so therefore they go away. So the Harishchandra, here the Chandala, the funeral groundskeeper, would be, what should I say, making sure each body is burnt properly. Now this is, based on some graphic imagery, in the sense that, when sometimes the body is put on the funeral pyre, certain gases, etc., make it jump up. And so when it jumps up, you have to push it down with a stick. So we thought we had confined this body of argument into the fire, but we have to bring out the inner Harishchandra to push the same fellow who has got up back with a stick. But it's not the same fellow. And even though the argument seemed like the same argument, it has a different function here. It has two different functions. First, what is that? Meet and greet with the Purva Pakshis. It's nice to have coffee with them and to know where they are coming from. And then the other reason is to understand how this Brahman shines as the Atma, as me, in me. Very, very important. So Tvam Pada, how, it is Tvam Pada Lakshya. This is also very, very important to understand. And so then, so I know that I know I am, I know. And then when I know, as the knower, there is this is not, gelling with me properly at all. When you talked about Brahman, I had a little distance. I said, okay, let it be Gyapti, let it be consciousness. Okay, no problem. But then I know myself. And what do I know myself as? I know myself as Atma, I. Evam tarhi, if that is so, then Brahma Atma Chet. If Brahman is Atma, then we have a problem. What is the problem? Atmatvat jnana kartritvam Brahmanaha. So, this is, if Brahman is the Atma, then definitely it is the agent of knowledge. Then if the Brahman is the agent of knowledge, then it becomes one more thing. It becomes one more thing. Therefore, there is no, so the jiva makes Brahman finite, because Brahman does not include the jiva here, and there is no akhandam Brahma, there is no infinite Brahma. So Satyam Jnanam, we have to find some other meaning. Satyam and Anantam also must be having some other meaning, and so therefore we have to see this very carefully, the Purva Pakshi says. And then so the point of view is that you just have to leave my Brahman alone. It is God. Don't bring God inside you and in your head. That is odd. That is not God. Let God be God. And don't try to make God into something, something that God is not. Because this is what I said was the Gudha Visandhi, a hidden agenda. And suppose you try to accommodate this person. I mean, like we can say, why is Adi Shankara keeping on bringing these arguments up and refuting the arguments, bringing the arguments up and refuting the arguments? Why can't we just say, there are so many people in the world with so many beliefs. Let this fellow or these fellows also have their beliefs. Live and let live. Well, we can do that as a sadhana for our growth. No problem. In fact, that is what is advised. This, I was giving a talk recently on what I forget what it was. Renunciation in daily life or something like that. And there I said, as a sadhana, we keep saying, tell ourselves, anything we encounter, is this really my business? No, this is none of my business. To keep repeating that as a mantra. But here, in the teaching situation, we cannot do that. In the studying situation, we cannot do that. As a sadhana, it is a fantastic, fantastic sadhana, a fantastic thing to do. is to stay asanga, is to just what is that, keep along with the mala and the water pot, also borrow a piece of tape, I said, and just tape the mouth, don't say anything, don't intervene. But as a sadhana, it is fantastic. As a sadhana for self growth, or as nididhyasanam also, which is a sadhana for jnana nishtha, that is also possible. Jnana nishtha means abiding in the knowledge deeper and deeper. That is also a very nice practice. But then here we are in the business of teaching and studying. And in the business of study, if you let the first argument go, then all the other implications, like dominoes, will just completely mow you down and cause Satyam Jnanam Anantam to commit suicide. Really, this is what will happen. It will all, the whole argument will take over this. And so this is some way in which we practice, how they have, I don't know what is that called, these boxers, they have something hanging at home, this thing, and then they go like this, you understand, it's filled with some sawdust and cork, some and cased in rubber or leather. And so they practice the before they get into the ring, they practice, they practice to sharpen their art. This also is a skill sharpening, buddhi honing device. The buddhi is the razor, and then this argument is the stone on which it is being sharpened. So, as a result of this Purva Paksha Siddhanta, Siddhanta means the answer to the objection, Purva Paksha objection. As a result of going through a few of these, you wait and see. At home, nobody will be able to argue with you, because you then start seeing how they think, and then all the logical corollaries of how they think. The mind really becomes so clear. What brain fog? How can it even be there? And the mind becomes very clear, crystal clear. And then you can immediately, when somebody is talking, you can see what they are doing and where they are going with this, even before they have opened their mouth a little bit. You can see that. Pujya Swamiji could do that. It was just fascinating to watch him. It was fascinating to watch him. That's why he would just, say one or two few words, and then and somebody would come and say, "Oh, I'm having this problem." One lady came and said, "I'm having this problem with my son," and he didn't even know her. He had no idea who she was, and she just came and she was saying like this. It was an elderly lady, grown son. And he had just asked her, "What do you do?" "Oh, I'm a professor," or something like that. "Now I'm retired," something, She said, "I'm having a problem with my son." And he immediately said, "You should apologize to him." "What? Me? Apologize? Why? Where did this come from?" "You should apologize to him." "Why should I apologize?" "Because he feels neglected." "Oh, but he is 32 years old." "Still, he feels neglected." Now he doesn't feel neglected, but that neglect from the childhood is there, and you should apologize. I mean, the woman burst into tears. How did he know? What happened? Everything. This is what it is. All this just, being in this way of thinking, just hones in the brain to see beyond just the words, to see, look at the motivations, to look at, and yet, it was not an unkind encounter here. It was a kind encounter. It was like, "I think you should apologize. I think you will feel better. I think he will definitely feel better, and the relationship will be better." That's what Puja Swamiji intended. And then, but she had a real catharsis. It was really amazing. But it was something which was very needed. And she was very shocked because nobody had talked to her like this before. And so, like this, this is all the phala. This is not the phala we are looking for, but this is a avantara phala, by chance, result that one gains as a consequence of this deep kind of a study of objection and rebuttal. It just does something to the brain. At the same time, it calms it down, and one, it teaches the buddhi to abide more and more in this knowledge and gain the beauty, revel in the beauty of this and the glory of this knowledge as oneself. And secondly, it makes one abide in it, even against the objections coming from ourselves, what to talk of other people. It's just very, very nice. So here, this is the Gudhabhisandhi. He's got a hidden agenda. And we'll see. I've already told you the hidden agenda. Leave my Brahman, which is God, alone. That is the hidden agenda here. So, which will, you already know it. And so, this is now the first argument, Jnana Kartritvam. And if you accept this, he will just make short shrift of you. So therefore, this could be any Purva Pakshi, like I said, it could be Sankhya argument, it could be Vaisheshika, Nayayika, all these things. Anybody who is a dualist can argue like this. And then, so then what is the hidden agenda? This hidden agenda means this Brahman is God, which is another person, a very special person. And so this is the dualism. And therefore, here, coming back to the argument, Atma is the doer, Atma is the karta. And then, Purva Mimamsaka, same thing. All of them say that. They don't have they only have the concept of Brahman as a gunam. Gunaihi saha vartate, that which is endowed with various qualities like omniscience, omnipotence, and all pervasiveness. All these things are qualities of Brahman. All knowledge, all this, all, and the six bhagas, all six virtues in full measure. Overlordship, vairagya, overlordship, dispassion, all knowledge, and all resources, and all these things. These are some. This is the way in which this Bhagavan is conceptualized, and that Bhagavan must be kept pure according to these kinds of objectors. Any dualist theology, philosophy person will want to protect that Bhagavan, that concept of Bhagavan, from being anything other than separate from I. Whatever it is, don't say it is I. It cannot be I, because what can I do? All I can do is, be miserable. So how can I be Bhagavan? I cannot be Bhagavan. And so this is why, this is what it is. So everything has got its own guna. This is the specialty of the Vaisheshika Mata, although it is, Mata means point of view, although it is there even in the Purva Mimamsaka, etc. Everything has its own guna. They don't understand the concept of formlessness at all. And that which is formless can be everywhere like space. They don't, either they don't understand, or they have a block or something. I don't know what the problem is. And so therefore, this is what it is. So everything is, so the Vastu, which is Brahman, is along with Visheshana. That's why they were happy when you talked about Satyam Jnanam Brahma, because they looked at each one of them as adjectival to Brahman. That's why there was such a lot of argument there. And then when it was informed to them that no, this is Lakshana, this is not this thing. Don't worry, you think Lakshana, I'll think Visheshana. This is what they secretly thought and kept quiet. And now they are rearing their head, and they with this particular contention, because the Atma is Karta. And so if you say Brahman is Atma, or Atma is Brahman, if you put it like this, then it gains the status of knower. So it gains the status of knower. And then what? No, it's not the status of the knower. Adi Shankara now needs a cough drop, because he's hoarse, saying it is Jnapti Swarupa. It's the knowerness. It is not the knower. And so this is what we are talking about. It is the knowerness. No, 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 no. It is not. It is, you can say knowerness. Knower means what? You just get this idea. You just put a ness in front of a word and you get it. But no, it means jnana karta. And just like I undergo a change when I know something, and then I change again when I know something else, Brahman also gets, because now has, become the agent of knowledge. And if Brahman is the agent of knowledge, then we have to say then, just like, if I then I will say, for example, if I'm the agent of knowledge, I will say what? Janami. Aham janami. The aham, I, joins the verb to know. I know. Aham janami. Then you can ask me, what do you know? What do you see? What do you know? What do you see? And then I can say, Ghatam Janami. I know I am the knower of pot. Then I can ask another question. How do you know the pot? How do you see the pot? Then I can say, Chakshusha Janami. Chakshusha Pashyami Janami. So I know it because of the eyes. And what do I know? I know the pot. Who is this I? Knower. You see, you already have three factors of action here. You have the knower, I, you have the known object, which is separate from you, which is the pot, and you have the means of knowing because I have seen the pot, and the seeing becomes the means of knowing. And what are we going to do now? Push it to next week. That's the only option we have. To be continued. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Thank you.
Thank you, Swamini ji. Thank you so much.
Thank you.